Greetings, I am Xenophon, son of Gryllus, born in Athens around 430 BCE. Though I'm often remembered as a soldier and historian, today I invite you to see me as a thinker on wealth management and the art of living well, what you now call economics. I lived during a transformative era, when Athens was both at the height of its glory and on the brink of decline. As a young man, I was shaped by the legacy of Pericles, the teachings of Socrates, and the tension between oligarchy and democracy that defined my city-state. Though I admired many aspects of Athenian democracy, I often found myself aligned with the Spartan sense of order and discipline, qualities that would later influence my writings on leadership and governance. My life was a tapestry of adventure and thought. I marched with the 10,000 in the campaign, later known as Anabasis, leading Greek mercenaries through the perilous return from Persia. I chronicled our journey, showing the resilience and adaptability of people in the face of adversity. That expedition, born out of chaos after the death of Cyrus the Younger, tested not only our physical endurance, but our political intelligence. When our generals were treacherously killed, I stepped forward, not out of ambition, but necessity. We navigated deserts and snow-covered mountains, negotiated with hostile locals, and relied on democratic councils within our ranks to make collective decisions. This journey was not only a military feat, but an early lesson in group economics, how to ration supplies, negotiate trades, and manage morale. In Anabasis, I documented these challenges with clarity and honesty, not merely to celebrate our return, but to preserve the lessons of leadership under duress. But beyond the battlefield, I was deeply fascinated by how humans organize their lives, how households, farms, and cities can thrive. My work, Oeconomicus, the management of the household, explored the foundations of what we now call economics. In it, I described not just how wealth is accumulated, but how it is wisely managed to sustain households and communities. This dialogue, framed around a conversation between Socrates and the landowner Oeconomicus, explored themes often neglected by philosophers of my time. Agriculture, domestic order, and the cooperation between husband and wife were, to me, the real building blocks of civilization. I did not see economics as mere money-making. It was about stewardship, the farmer managing his land, the steward organizing labor, and the householder teaching virtue to his family. We're all economic actors in their own right. In a time when most philosophical discussions centered on metaphysics and politics, I turned the lens toward daily life. To me, wealth was not merely measured in coins. It lay in the fruitful organization of land, labor, and knowledge. I spoke of oikos, the household, and nomos, rule or law. Together, they create oikonomia, the art of managing life's resources. In this way, I showed that economy is as much about human character and wisdom as it is about material goods. This fusion of the private and the public, of the moral and the material, is at the heart of my economic thought. A household that is well governed can mirror a well-ordered polis, and just as an individual must learn moderation, so must a city learn how to balance wealth with virtue. I believed that prosperity without discipline leads to decay, both for individuals and for states. Thus, the true economist must also be a moral philosopher, a teacher of ethics, and a guide to civic responsibility. While Oeconomicus is my most famous contribution to economic thought, I explored these ideas further in other works. In Ways and Means, I advised Athens on how to increase its public revenue, not through war, but through trade, silver mining, and encouraging foreign merchants. Here, I championed economic reforms that would strengthen the city-state's prosperity. Athens, after the Peloponnesian War, was in need of recovery, not just militarily, but economically. I proposed that rather than pursue conquest, the city should look inward, make its silver mines more efficient, welcome skilled foreigners with legal protections, and invest in its own commercial infrastructure. I even suggested that state-run boarding houses and public accommodations could be used to attract international traders, a revolutionary idea that hinted at what modern economists might call public-private cooperation or proto-tourism policy. In this, I showed that peace could be more profitable than war, and that a city that cultivates trust, order, and opportunity can grow its wealth from within. In Peroi, or Ways and Means, I argued for practical solutions, using natural resources wisely, reforming taxation, and fostering commerce. These ideas echo through history, influencing debates on public finance and economic sustainability long after my time. I was particularly concerned with how the state could fund itself without exploiting its people. I proposed a system of progressive taxation based on actual productivity rather than arbitrary levies. I also emphasized the importance of land management and maritime trade, calling for investment in port facilities and merchant fleets. My work anticipated, in a humble way, what would later become fiscal policy, the balancing act between raising revenue and ensuring the prosperity of the citizens. Even centuries later, Roman and Byzantine thinkers would revisit these questions of public finance, often unaware that they were echoing the voice of an old Athenian soldier philosopher. And while my military treatises, like Anabasis and Cyropaedia, were not strictly economic, they offered models of leadership, discipline, and organization, qualities essential to any well-run economy. In Cyropaedia, I even imagined an ideal ruler, Cyrus the Great, whose wisdom and fairness created a flourishing empire. Some later thinkers saw in it the seeds of political economy itself. Cyropaedia was not just a biography, it was a thought experiment. I used the figure of Cyrus, to explore how an empire could be stable, just, and prosperous. It was a vision of enlightened rule, where merit triumphed over birth and pragmatism over tyranny. I portrayed an administration where officers were rewarded based on service, and where even conquered peoples were treated with dignity. While fictionalized in parts, the underlying message was serious, that good governance is the foundation of wealth and peace. Renaissance thinkers admired Cyropedia as a mirror for princes. Enlightenment economists later saw in it the idea that leadership is a form of social capital, a resource as vital as gold or grain. In this sense, I was not merely chronicling the past, I was gesturing toward possible futures, where reason and justice could shape economic life. Many centuries later, Adam Smith and others would echo my thoughts, though often unknowingly. For me, the key lesson was clear. Wealth is not just gold, it is the harmony of people, resources, and purpose. I am Xenophon, a soldier who crossed deserts, a writer who chronicled history, and a thinker who glimpsed the soul of what you now call economics. Whether you manage a household, a farm, or a nation, when you strive for order and sustainability, I walk beside you. Thank you for joining me on this journey through thought and history.